Welcome to Across Africa, a weekly look at stories from across the continent. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and this week, at least 11 people were killed and dozens injured in explosions at a rally called by M23 rebels in the captured eastern Congolese city of Bukavu. Also, despite the tensions between Rwanda and DRC, many Congolese have fled over the border into Kigali, and there a community of artists try to circumvent diplomatic enmity to foster compassion and collaboration in their own way. And Ghana accepts a €50 million EU military package as the European bloc hands over kit, comms and boats to try and help Accra ramp up its role in West African security. But first, M23 rebels in DR Congo blamed the Congolese government for a fatal bombing of a rally at the seized capital of South Kivu on Thursday. At least 11 people were killed as the insurgents met with residents they'd called together in Bukavu. Kinshasa says that Rwanda's backing the M23 and that a foreign army was behind Thursday's attack. Florent Marché has more.
Here, in the eastern DRC city of Bukavu, thousands were summoned to hear rebel leader Corneille Nangaa speak at a meeting hosted by his armed alliance, which includes the M23. As Nangaa was leaving the square, an explosion rang out. Crowds fled in terror as they heard a second blast. Some carried the injured to safety.
As the president of the movement was leaving the podium, people were killed. I saw 7 bodies. We didn't know there were people with bad intentions among us.
We were still there when we saw something fall from the sky into the middle of the crowd. At least 5 people died instantly. We don't know who dropped the bomb from the hillside here.
The mass rally was the first appearance of rebel leader Corneille Nangaa since M23 fighters seized control of Bukavu. Nangaa blamed the Congolese government for the explosion without providing any evidence. DRC President Tshisekedi called the explosions a heinous terrorist act, which he blamed on a foreign force illegally stationed on Congolese territory. Bukavu and Goma, capitals of the Kivu provinces, were seized in recent weeks by the M23, who UN experts report are backed by some 4,000 Rwandan troops.
Well, many Congolese have headed to Rwanda to escape the violence at home. And there, despite the diplomatic frictions between their countries, some artists have been trying to find collaboration in their own way.
Darrell grips his phone tightly. He's anxious. This dancer from Bukavu, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, fled the violence before the M23 rebels arrived.
Things are unclear politically speaking. It's not really very clear when I'm going back to Bukavu, but I try to check the news every day to see how things are going over there.
Like Darrell, many artists have taken refuge across the border in Rwanda, a country accused of backing the M23. Despite rising diplomatic tensions, this dance festival organizer believes that now, more than ever, cultural collaboration must continue.
Now is not the time to give up. Even if there are complicated political reasons, there's always this friendship between us and the dancers of Congo. And that's what it means to be an artist, to create this connection, this friendship, to see how we can inspire the world.
A friendship that Emmanuel from Kigali and Alobak from Goma embody in their performance Mitsi Mitsi.
It shows the resistance between two friends who really work together. I'm Rwandese, he's a Congolese, but we've been working together as just to reflect how friendship occurs.
We have a common language, which is dance. It's my way of sharing a message of peace, of living in resilience, despite everything that's happening back home.
Words that sharply contrast with the violences devastating the neighboring country. Art has the power to unite, but it cannot prevent the fear of a new all-out conflict in the region.
Well, Ghana was on the receiving end of €50 million worth of kit from the EU for its security forces. The European bloc's trying to help Accra step up its ability to tackle West African regional threats.
This is the second time in 2 years that these equipment are being handed over to the Ghana Armed Forces. it is expected that it would help build intelligence within the military in Ghana and also build its capacity to be able to trace crime, especially along its northern borders with countries like Burkina Faso.
The European Union support to peace and security goes far beyond the delivery of military equipment. It encompasses comprehensive support from conflict prevention, mediation to border management, counterterrorism, cybersecurity, maritime security, fight against disinformation, you name it.
Ghana has had to impose several curfews, especially within its northeastern regions, to contain several inter-tribal conflicts that have so far taken the lives of tens of people and led to the destruction of several properties. The region borders Burkina Faso to the south and has so far seen the crossing of more than 15,000 refugees who are fleeing insurgency attacks in the Sahelian region.
We are dealing with the social side, that is the human and the community side, and also where it requires the technical aspect, equipment and all, that is also being addressed in a holistic manner.
The European Union says its counter-terrorism work with countries like Ghana would be sustained despite several multifaceted challenges that the Union itself continues to face.
Well, Uganda and Tanzania are trying to shut down a challenge to a huge gas project. They've asked judges to dismiss a civil petition against the East African crude oil pipeline. Our Juliet Monti was at Monday's ECOP hearing in Kigali.
It's a critical battle that played out before the judges of the East African Court of Justice. A number of civil society lawyers took to the stand, arguing that the ECOP project does not meet regional and international legal standards. Led by French oil giant Total Energies, this massive project aims to build the world's longest heated oil pipelines of over 1,400 kilometers. This time, the case against Uganda and Tanzania focused on a procedural irregularity, but the lawyers also used the opportunity to highlight the bigger picture: human rights concerns, health risks, and significant environmental threats.
We have been telling court that this is a public interest case. We are talking about biodiversity, we are talking about climate change, we are talking about climate integrity, we are talking about depletion of some species, we are talking about depletion of groundwater and surface water.
Together with the Tailenga oil project, which involves drilling over 400 wells in a protected park in western Uganda, ECOP has already led to the forced displacement of more than 120,000 people. The court's decision is expected in the coming weeks. In the address, the plaintiffs' lawyers challenged the judges, saying their ruling would be a test of their integrity.
Well, people working for Cameroon's largest sugar producer have accused it of labour abuse and unfairly low wages. At least one person died as police cracked down during January strikes at French agro giant Sosukam. Our team sent us this report.
22-year-old Gaston was shot and killed by police as they cracked down on a protest by Cameroonian sugarcane field workers in early February. His friends and family are still in shock.
It was the police who shot him. It was a uniformed officer who was supposed to guarantee the safety of civilians, but he did the opposite. A lot of people were hurt.
Most of the demonstrators labored for the Cameroon sugar company, Sosukam, in Koteng, a town not far from the capital, Yaoundé. They had organized the rallies to demand outstanding wages and better working conditions. Sosukam managers gave them the ultimatum to either return to work or lose their jobs. Violent clashes broke out after security forces were called in. Mahamat has worked at Sosukam for 20 years and earns only 55,000 francs, or about 85 euros each month. He and his wife have 9 children, and his salary doesn't go far.
To make ends meet, there's overtime. That's what exhausts people. That makes people sick. You have to do it, not because you want to. You have a wife, you have children, you can't eat, you can't pay for their schooling. Let's not talk about health. We try because we don't know where to go.
parce qu'on ne sait là où aller.
Sosukam claims to have suffered around 7 million euros in losses after protesters allegedly torched nearly 1,000 hectares of sugarcane fields. Nevertheless, it plans on hiring 600 more staff to replace those who were fired following the riots.
We have a clearly defined framework for dialogue that is reinforced by our collective company agreement that allows us to record all the grievances for each worker. The objective today is to invite all workers to respect this framework for dialogue.
Work has restarted on Sosukam's fields, but tensions remain. It was created in 1964 and about 3/4 of it is owned by the French agri-food giant Somdia, with the remaining 26% belonging to the state of Cameroon.
That's it for Across Africa. Thanks very much for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.
France 24 embraces digital. The best way to stay informed. Live blogs following international news in real time. The latest news in 5, 10 or 15 minutes. France 24, your first choice for news.